Hello again, Gills fans and Accrington fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Wednesday, which means one thing: it is match preview showtime. And after the distraction last weekend of the FA Cup, where unfortunately we bowed out to Premier League, Sheffield United is back to the bread and butter of Sky Bet League Two this coming weekend. And I'm pleased to say, ahead of that game, I'm joined for the second time this season by Tony Robinson. He is part of the Across the Pitch North American Accrington Stanley podcast. I believe he is also a member of the North American Accrington Stanley Supporters Club. I will put all the details for them two Twitter accounts and Tony's in the description at the bottom of this video. So go and give them all a follow. Tony, are you well? Did you have a nice Christmas and Happy New Year to you?
Yeah, same to you. Yeah, nice, pleasant Christmas. Lots of gifts, and as the get even with you now, you get the bills coming in on the credit card. So
that's the trouble, isn't
happy
it? Yeah.
January.
Exactly, yeah. December's lovely, and then January you realise how much you've spent. That seems to always be the trouble, doesn't it? I've always said
Yeah,
it'd be nice if you go from New Year's Day straight to March the 1st and just forget January and February. It'd be lovely.
and I just realized the other day it's a leap year, so we've got an extra day of winter to worry about.
Oh, yeah, we have this year as well, yeah. Right. Anyway, weather forecasts and Christmas aside, the purpose of this show is obviously to talk about Accrington Stanley and the game coming up this weekend. If we look at recent form for both sides, Accrington have played over their last 6 games: Doncaster, Crewe Alexandra, Walsall, Harrogate, Barrow and Salford. And in that time, they've picked up 9 points from 18 available. There's been good wins against Walsall and Salford, and there's been draws against Barrow, Donny and Crewe. So only 1 defeat in the last half dozen. That was away at Harrogate. So 9 points from the last half dozen. Tony, how would you sum up the recent period of form?
I think it's been a good steady increase in play. They seem to be settling down and playing consistent. If you want to say putting in a full 90 minutes, they're getting there, and I think it shows in the results. And the one loss that you mentioned, it was an injury time that they give up the tying goal. So really, that one kind of hurt because it should have been a draw. So form-wise, I would say that we're in decent shape, not the best, but after you look at the Christmas, the Christmas period and what you mentioned, we've only one loss. I think going into it, I think you would take that. So we have to be satisfied and encouraged with the Christmas period.
Absolutely, yeah. Because if you break it down into the 4 festive games, it's 9 from 12, which makes it even more impressive. And 9 points from 6 over the last half a dozen is 1.5 points per game, which gives you around 70 points in a season. So very solid, like you say, with if not spectacular. Gills is not too different. We've picked up 10 points from the last 18 available. We played Wimbledon, Bradford, Forest Green, Crawley, Sutton and Colchester in that time. Wins against Wimbledon, Sutton and Colchester, solitary draw against Forest Green, and then home defeats to Bradford and Crawley Town. And if we look at the league table, everything points towards it being a tight game. You're currently 10th with 38 points from 26 games, and we're 11th with 38 points from 25 games, albeit a very much inferior goal difference. So should be, if everything goes according to the form and the league position, a very even encounter come Saturday afternoon.
I would think so. I think it's going to be a tight contest and really decided by one goal. I know the last time when we played at your place, you had that 1-0 win. And 1-0, there anything can happen in those matches. And I think the better side won on that day. But I think the team that we are looking at now, because of injuries and one thing and another, it's going to be a different lineup, I think, that you're going to see. And they're at the Wham, their record is not bad, actually. I was surprised. I knew it was pretty good, but in the home form table, they're fifth in the league. So if we can pick up some performances on the road, get up to about 10th or whatever in the away table, I think there's a chance that you could be knocking on the door for the playoff spot. I mean, if you look at the way it is now, I think there's 6 or 7 teams within 3 points of 7th place. I think it goes all the way down to Walsall, if I'm
Yeah, you've got Wimbledon are on 39 points and they occupy the last playoff space in seventh. And then if you go down to, even if you say even you could go further than that. You could go all the way down to Morecambe in 17th. They're on 33 points. There's only 6 points separating 10 or 11 places, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And I think when we talked before, we said that there was going to be a mid group of teams that are
Mhm.
going to be pretty close. And I think it's really sort of panning out that way. And there's a couple of teams in the top 6 or 7 that really sort of are not in great form. And I think that's Crewe and Notts County have sort of gone off the boil a little bit.
Notts
So
County,
I think
definitely, yeah.
yeah, I think there's definitely some incentive for both teams. I mean, obviously, um, for you guys, you've got a game in hand, and a win on Saturday would really put you in decent shape. But our job, of course, is to prevent that and try and get 3 points for Stanley. Which again, then whoever wins this match really does sort of should move up the table somewhat. Whether they'll get into the last playoff spot, it depends on everything going around.
Of
But
course, yeah.
it certainly would put you, the winning team certainly puts them more in the driver's seat.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously the other thing is both clubs and all clubs up and down the division have got another 2, 3 weeks to make changes to their squads to try and improve and to get to where they want to be or away from where they currently are. So it's a big month for
Well,
the whole division for a variety of
yeah,
reasons.
and we've got a Bristol Motors Cup match tonight at
Okay.
home against Bolton. So I mean, it's going to be, and I mean, I know John Cohen will put out a strong side because
Mhm.
he really believes in this tournament. Because it's really it's his one chance to get to Wembley.
Of course.
Us and Crawley are the only 2 teams that haven't made it to Wembley. And last year, Accrington lost to Bolton at the Wham in the semi-finals. So this is a tough game tonight. And I'm hoping basically that we get through it in one piece.
Mhm.
And we didn't have a game on Saturday, so they're rested for that. But then you've got a quick turnaround from a Wednesday night. Normally you play Tuesday, and you're playing
Mhm.
Wednesday night, and then the turnaround for you guys. So I'm hoping for a good game, but clean game, and that we come out of this without any injuries.
Of course, yeah. I didn't realise you was playing tonight, so that's a one that I've missed there. So apologies. Yeah, I was looking at the league form and noticed that you had the
Yeah,
weekend off because of FA Cup, whereas obviously we had a tough game in the FA Cup against Sheffield United where we didn't see a load of the ball, so there was a lot of running and out of possession. But we're going to have a free week on the training ground, so fingers crossed we'll be in fairly decent shape as well.
yeah.
Interesting you mentioned the Accrington home form because I was having a look at sort of recent meetings over the sort of last 5 or 6 seasons, and ironically, to counter how good Accrington have been at home this season, Gills have won their last 4 visits to the Wham. I was looking going back to the start of the
Well,
2018-19 season. So 2-0 in August 2018, 1-0 October 19, same scoreline January 21. And then the last meeting at your place was March 22 when we got relegated out of League One, but we beat you 2-1 before we got relegated. And we've only lost once in 8 meetings against Accrington. So slight caveats, but obviously we know it's all on about the here and now and it's different sets of players. But I guess reasons
well,
for
there's a reason. There's a reason why I didn't look that stat up because I don't like it.
There's a reason I bought it up when you started talking about
Yeah,
your home form. So reasons to be positive for both sets of fans. Um,
yep.
we've already sort of brushed over the reverse fixture back in August, and you've said it, and I totally agree. I think 1-0 probably flattered Accrington. To be fair, we missed a lot of chances second half, and that's been the story of Gills for too long, missing a lot of chances. But what's changed in terms of when we last spoke with Accrington? Because I think when we spoke back in August, you were saying, "Oh, if we could have a decent sort of consolatory season and finish sort of mid-table, then that's good." But obviously now you've got to be looking at playoffs. Surely you're right in the mix.
Well, yeah. I mean, and this is, I think when we touched on it, overall, what was the expectations for the season?
Mhm.
And I was looking in that 10 to 12 position for the season. But like any, if you can get on a run and you can get some results.
Hmm.
And some of those, I mean, we've got to turn some of those draws into wins. And there was a match against, I think it was Swindon. We were down 4-0 going into the 90th minute,
Oh, I
and
remember that.
so
Lost 4-3,
yeah,
wasn't it? And missed a great
four
chance to
three.
go 4-all.
Yes, and they kicked it off the line in the last
Yeah.
basically. So um, what I get my point is that we're never out of it,
Of
and
course.
it seems to be that at the last 15 minutes or so, if they are behind, the sense of urgency seems to come into play. We're hoping that's not the case on Saturday, but my advice is if anybody's watching that match, don't leave early because something could happen in injury
Of
time.
course,
So
yeah.
I know there's a long trip back, but for an extra couple minutes, stick around because you never know what you're going to see.
Yeah, there was only a few weeks ago that game. I remember when it was 4-3 and Swindon took kickoff, and the keeper for some reason was like about 30 yards out of his goal and tried to play it into someone's feet and they got the ball pinched off him. And yeah, I remember the defender getting back to clear it off the line. Would have been an astonishing comeback because I think all your
Well,
goals were
and
scored after
really,
like 94 minutes, weren't they?
yeah, two goals and this the guy that scored two goals was the defender Brad Hills that we
Mhm.
talked about on loan, and he could be in the running for player of the season so far. He's
Mhm.
really for a young player, he can do it all, and he's talented at both ends of the pitch, and will play at a higher level. Where I think we're fortunate to have him, but in that instance, I think I don't see why the keeper wasn't yellow carded or sent off because he was the last man and he took the player out.
Mm.
But that's all water on the bridge now. But at least the point is that we can score and we can score late. So as I say, it's you never know what's going to happen.
But I guess obviously you don't want to be having to chase 3 goal deficits
No,
or 4 goal deficits all the time. That's the
no,
flip side to it, isn't it? Yeah, it's
yeah.
exciting, but you'd rather not be 4-0 down to start with. You've spoken about young players, and I think that's something that Accrington are good at. They do get these good youngsters in, whether that's permanently or on loan. But there's one particular player that I want to talk about quickly, is because he's former Gills player, and believe he's just had his emergency loan extended a bit more, and that's your goalkeeper Joe Walsh, who was with us as a child before leaving, I think, in January 2021 and went to QPR. He's played 7 times since coming in and has kept 3 clean sheets. So a solid start for Joe. What have you made of him as a goalkeeper?
Oh, I'm very impressed with his play. Very mature, good distribution of the ball,
Hmm.
good stop shopper against Walford. Salford. He made some saves that I think really got sort of pushed under the radar because you were winning up 3-0, but he made a couple of saves that when you look at them in a replay, thought, oh, those are really class saves. So
Hmm.
he's fitting well. He's since we didn't have a game on the weekend, they didn't extend his loan until today. I think for tonight's match.
Hmm.
Um, I think he's still going to be here for a couple more weeks. To be honest, I'd love to keep him, but on the emergency loan, we can only do it a week at a time.
Hmm.
And I think Toby Savin, who is a quality keeper,
Hmm.
is probably 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks away yet. So we're looking at Joel for another few matches, and we're happy to have him because I think he's contributed a lot to the good form we're in.
Excellent. It's good to see him playing because obviously he left us I think he was only 18 at the time and he'd barely played. I think it might have been a half in the league because he had to
Yeah.
come off the bench due to injury. But aside from that, it was just league trophy game. So it's good to see him getting a chance in league football because I know he was highly thought of when he left to go to QPR. It's not probably worked out quite as he'd hoped there in the championship, but it's a big step up, isn't it? So it's great to see Joe going out and
Yeah.
getting senior footballer. And of course, I hope he has a stinker at the weekend. But after that, I hope he does well again.
Well, he's good with his feet, and he likes to play that Man City kind of football out of the back. So there's always that sort of fear that a keeper may make a mistake, and
Mhm.
I think the first couple of matches we weren't familiar with that from him, but now it's settled into expecting that from him, and he's been very good at it. So he's really an additional, almost if you want to say, a sweeper at the back to distribute the play. And yeah, we're very pleased with what he's done so far.
Excellent. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the last game actually against Salford, and aside from Jack Nolan, who obviously scored twice in that 3-0 win, it's Joe got the highest rating of 8.2 that day. I'm just looking at the stats, made 5 saves, 4 from inside the box, so clearly doing stuff correctly. Before we get what you think the potential team would be for Saturday, in terms of danger men, who should we be looking out for? And I think it's Joe Pritchard as your top scorer, I believe, in the league. I think he's got 8. You've got
I think it might be Nolan. I think because he got a
or is
couple
it
of goals
Nolan?
against
Sorry.
Salford.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Maybe I've read that wrong. No
yeah.
problem at all. You know more
Um,
than me, and that's why we get you on to tell us the correct information.
well, I think it came up because the 2 goals I think put him in the lead for
Oh,
goals,
okay.
but they are spread out a bit. Yeah, Joe is back. He's healthy, and he's going to play in that three behind the striker role.
Mm-hmm.
Very talented player, and I think he's the one to watch because he's not only can score, but he can move the ball. He's a good passer of it. Very intelligent player, and if we win on Saturday, the ball's got to go through Joe Pritchard, and Nolan's got to be involved. We've got a bit of an issue in that we don't have an out and out striker. Josh Andrews is injured and out at the moment, so
That's the
we're
lad on
using
loan from, is it Birmingham?
Birmingham.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Remember him playing in
and
the reverse fixture, yeah.
yeah, he's a good tall lad. Now we've got a young lad, Josh Woods. It's not really a striker, but I'll tell you, he'll run and run and run, and hopefully makes the other team defenders and whatever make mistakes. So we're looking at getting goals really from. He's unlucky really not to have a couple of goals, but maybe that might change on Saturday. But you know, he you can't give him you can't fault him for his effort, and he's a nice young lad, and hopefully he'll lead the line, and you know, hopefully can get in the channels and do something on Saturday.
Absolutely. So in terms, I know you've got this game Wednesday evening in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, as it's now
Yeah.
called. Wonderfully named, isn't it? Sounds brilliant. Um, Barring injuries, suspensions, or anything like that, do you see there being any changes, Tony, from the team that beat Salford, or do you think it'll be a case of if it's not broken, don't fix it, and John Coleman will go as close to that same 11 from the last league game's victory?
Yeah, I think that's John Coleman's style. If he gets a team that's gels and
Mhm.
is and wins, he's very reluctant to make a change unless there's an injury. I heard an interview he gave yesterday that he said there was one person coming back from injury, but there was one person injured in training. So, and he didn't release any names. So, will be interesting to see the lineup he puts out tonight.
That might
But
give you an idea, yeah.
yeah, it will give us an idea because Tommy Lee, who is another talented player, might be back. I just don't. I'll wait to see tonight to see if he's in the lineup or on the bench. To be honest, and Tommy, as I say, is a talented player. The way that they're playing right now, I think he'd have a tough time getting in the squad based on the performance that the team gave against Salford.
Sure.
So, uh, I mean, if you look like we'll see Walsh in nets, and the back line. I've got to be impressed by a young lad. He's 18, going on 19, and he called Connor O'Brien, come through the academy. He's taken over from Longello that unfortunately got an Achilles injury and is out for some time. And
Right,
he was
okay.
another exciting player. So he's really, as John Coleman said, like a duck to water. He's really taken to it. So he's very impressive for a young fella. But the rest of the back line is all lone players with Brad Hills, Gubbins from QPR,
Mhm.
and then Shipley. And Shipley, the back four are all playing well right now, and that's why we're not conceding a lot of goals with Joe and Nets. Now, the change that we're going to see, I think, in the midfield that you didn't see when we played you guys in August, is it's basically new midfield, and it's because of injuries. with Seamus still out on the fringes because of a knock. And Liam Coyle is out and won't be back for another few weeks. So we've got a midfield now with Ben Woods, who was at Wigan and came down from Scotland, playing alongside a young another academy product called Dan Martin.
Yep.
And those two are really, in my eyes, are really impressed, and they're good distributors of the ball, both of them. Ben got a goal there a couple of weeks ago. Dan Martin is more of sort of a really good passer of the ball, and you'll see them getting the ball up to the three that I expect to sit behind the striker would be Nolan, and then we've got Pritchard, and then Sean Wally, who at 36 years old is really playing some of his best football and really enjoying himself. So I think that's the lineup that you'll probably see. And Wally and Nolan have a tendency to change sides. Nolan is left-footed and he likes to play on the right and come inside and have a shot. So I think that's basically, depending on what happens tonight, I would guess that's probably going to be somewhere around your starting lineup for Saturday.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, just looking at the middle of the park, obviously a very different approach to what we saw at the Priestfield back in August, because you had Seamus Keneally playing in their vastly experience, and now it's great to see that John's trusting the younger lads, who are both 21, to go in there and do a job in what is a very crucial area of the pitch. So it'd be interesting to see how we match up. Obviously, we've got Ethan Coleman, who's 24, and Dom Jeffries, who's 21. But if we play with an additional number in the middle of the park, then I'm sure it'd be someone more experienced, like a Johnny Williams or a Conor Mahoney or Tim Dieng or that type of thing. So that should be an interesting battle. Gills' team news. I'm obviously only going off of what came out of the game against Sheffield United, because there's not been a press conference just yet, as always. So I think the only doubt Gills have got is over Johnny Williams, who had to come off first half against Sutton, I think, just before the new year. So Gills are pretty much full strength in terms of availability. So I'd make a couple of changes, but whether Stephen Clements does, I'd probably make a little change at right wing back. I'm not sure Alexander's in the best of form at the moment, and Robbie McKenzie's fit again now. I'd like to see Macaulay Bonne get a chance up front with Ollie Hawkins. It seems to be the only partnership that we've not seen since Ollie came back from injury, but I don't think Stephen Clements will go with that. But it'll be a good game. It'll be competitive. It'll be two proper honest teams, I think, that are hard working. I'm not saying that the quality is always going to be brilliant, but I think you know what you get with Accrington and you know what you get with Gillingham in terms of how their games are going to be played. They're not, I don't think, we certainly don't score loads. You're not conceding loads. We don't concede loads. So I can't see it being a goal fest. So the dreaded question before we start wrapping this episode up, Tony, is what's the score going to be?
Well, I think when we looked at, I looked at some of the numbers, and I had this written down before, but when I looked at some of the numbers, it really reinforces what I was going to go with. I'm looking for a 2-1 Stanley win. We concede just over one goal a match at home, and we're scoring almost two. The 3-0 win over Salford is very it's not a norm, and there's never usually an easy match for Stanley. We don't make it easy, so I'm looking at a 2-1. I have a question regarding the style of play. Has it changed at your end since you because last time we spoke you've changed managers now?
And big change in October. There's been so I have to be careful what I say because I get in trouble on social media. I wasn't in agreement with the sacking of Neil Harris when we was 4 points off top. We're obviously a lot further off top now. I've seen signs, to give credit to Stephen Clements, in games and in patches in games that of what he's trying to implement. But the trouble is for Stephen is that he's come in and he's taken over someone else's player. So you're trying to get people to play a completely different way to what they're built to do. Neil Harris recruited these players to play a certain style of football, and we're asking them to do something completely different. We've seen bits that have been really good. We've seen bits where we've been caught out, like goal against Bradford a couple of weeks ago, where we tried to play out from the back and we've overcooked it and ended up getting caught. Ironically, we've we've looked really good in the last couple of games or so since Ollie Hawkins has returned, and we've gone back to a 2 up top, changed the system to a back 3, and we've gone fairly direct and played off of Ollie, which Neil Harris didn't have the luxury of this season because Ollie broke down on a pre-season trip to Como and then didn't return to the starting 11 until sort of 3 weeks ago. So Neil never got to play him all season. So it'd be interesting to see whether Stephen Clements continues with this massive change of direction that we were promised, or he does adapt and realise that I think in League Two it's quite a robust division and you have to maybe get yourself up the pitch and play from there predominantly. There are signs we're not consistent enough. That's been our trouble all season. I mean, if we win Saturday, it'll be 3 wins on the bounce, which is unheard of for us. And of course, we've still got the ongoing issue of we don't score enough goals. We're still the lowest scorers in the division, so it'll be a tricky game. But I'm going to give my score prediction based on the fact that we're both playing fairly well in the league. But obviously, I can't get away from this fact that we seem to have. Sometimes you just have lucky grounds, don't you? Or in your case, you might have a bogey team which could be us. So I'm going to look at that as well. So I'm going to be positive, and I wrote mine down. I'm going to say 1-0 to the Gills, and I'm going to back Ollie Hawkins to get off the mark for the season.
Okay, well, that's. I think we both agree. Then it's going to be a close match. And,
absolutely, yeah. I can't see it being one team runs away with it, not at all. I think both teams are solid enough defensively. So,
and I think one of the things that really it's sort of gone unspoken of. It's an important match for Stanley in the sense that they want to get to that 50-point mark as soon as possible. I mean, since we spoke in August, Andy Holt, the owner, chairman, has put the team up for sale. The managers have been more outspoken, more so the assistant manager, about the contracts not being extended. It seems to have calmed down, but the consensus is that Andy Holt basically said, you guys get us to safety and we'll renew your contracts. Looking from an owner's point of view on a small budget, he really didn't want to commit to a certain amount of salaries if the team was going to go down into the National League. So I think that had a bit of an effect on the play in the fall and in the autumn there. But I think really that sort of settled down, and the dust has settled. But I think that's maybe one of the reasons we've seen a little more consistency in the plays, that John and Jimmy now are focused on the team and not what's going off the pitch, and that certainly helped in our form.
Absolutely, and like you say, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a balancing act, like you say, with small clubs between rewarding managers who've done very well for the club, and that's definitely the case with John Coleman and his assistant, but at the same time protecting the football club, because the old saying is no one's bigger than the football club, and the football club will be there long after Andy Holt, John Coleman, or anyone else who comes in and runs the club or manages the football team. So it is a difficult balancing act. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Saturday. Unfortunately, not travelling up for this one. Similar to you, is obviously Christmas is still being paid off, and it's bloody freezing in the south, so I'm sure it'd be even worse up north as well.
Yeah, even on a set, I mean, you can expect some rain and cold temperatures. I mean, the one good thing, it's on a Saturday afternoon. It's not a Tuesday night, but
yeah, that'd be even worse. Tuesday nights are horrendous, especially January.
Yeah, let's hope for the weather not playing a factor, because when the wind blows and being the stands relatively low, the wind can have an effect on the play. The pitch is in good shape. Pitch is not going to be an issue. It's just whether the weather will impact the play. But looking forward to the match, and you've made me a little bit more concerned now with those stats about us being your lucky team. So I expect a close match, and
absolutely,
it's going to be interesting to see, because it's an important match for both. So I think both teams will go for it.
Yeah, I think it will be. Yeah, I don't think any team will be sitting back. I think both teams will try and win the football match, because, like you say, it's important for a variety of reasons. They're both on the coattails of them playoff places, and they want to gain some momentum, especially with January, because if you're playing well, you've got more chance of attracting better players that may be available. So plenty of reasons for
I think
teams to be positive.
Unfortunately, John Coleman's come out and said that they're not going to be bringing anybody in. They don't have the money to bring anybody in.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically what you see is what you get.
Hmm.
But if you get some of those players back, Tommy Lee, Seamus, it's like a new signing,
That's
don't
it, yeah.
you? But we've been lucky with the loan players that we've had this season, and they've been a big factor in where we are at this moment. And that's life in League Two. Loan players are a big part of your team, especially on a small budget.
Absolutely, nature of the beast. Well, Tony, for the second time this season, it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you very much. I do appreciate your time. Enjoy the game against Bolton tonight. I'll be keeping my fingers crossed for you. Hopefully, you can progress a bit further, being one of
Yep.
only a couple of teams to never get to the National Stadium. All the best after Saturday.
Okay.
Hope you're rubbish on Saturday. Like I've said, Gills fans, Accrington fans, if you're still watching at this point, then thank you very much. I will put Tony's details and all of the other details of the Twitter accounts in the description at the bottom of the video. So please go and give them a follow. Please keep doing all that you do, liking, subscribing, retweeting. We're now within 100 of 3,000 subscribers on the channel, which again is just absolutely staggering. So thank you very much. Won't be at the Wham Stadium, unfortunately, so there'll be no match day live this weekend. But we're hopefully back Sunday to do a match day review with Reese and hopefully an Accrington fan if I can track one down. But until then, enjoy your rest of your week. Hopefully it's not snowing too hard, and up the Gills.